and nobody was against the affordable housing. My kids, my family should not have to live like this.
Thank you. Other comments?
Oh, Greg, can I just make a comment about Ashwood Court? Is there an update? Are we allowed to talk about that right now, or is there an update from Mr. Giacobbe? Or I guess we're just regarding Ashwood Court.
I can provide an update. Why don't we just, I'll do that after the comment. I don't know if there's anyone else on it, but I can definitely provide an update.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just Bob Pulowski, 3 Crest Acre Court. Following up on Tara's comment, I just want to remind you guys that under the settlement agreement with the folks on Ashwood Court, the city is liable to fix the wall, fix the grading, and do everything. All 3 of you are, okay? And I could understand why you might like to negotiate with Habitat and the developer and get them to do it, but at some point in time, we got to take care of our residents and just do it and send them the bill or sue them. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, do we want to get a quick, let's just get a quick update on where we
Well,
are.
if there's any more questions, I
Yeah.
think, you want me to answer
No,
it?
let's do that now. Yeah.
Okay, so, very familiar with the settlement agreement. I have written to Habitat's legal counsel. In fact, I had Mr. Schrager go out last week, I think it was. You took the photographs of the site. I've reminded them that they are, both the city and Habitat are responsible for replacing the wall. Repairing it, we said, is no good. I issued them a cease and desist letter because they were going to repair it. That was unacceptable to us. Mr. Schrager has engaged engineers to go out and look at the wall so it's done properly and won't fall down. Repairing a broken wall is not going to do it. So that was the first letter. Second letter went through and we took photographs of the entire site, pointed out that by the front curbing, the drainage drain was not cleaned properly. It hasn't been graded. The rocks have been removed. There's a sidewalk that isn't properly graded. The fencing is not in place. I went through the whole series of things that are problematic with the site to bring it up to speed, and we gave them a date certain, which is supposed to be, I think, Monday, from my recollection, to get it straightened out. If it doesn't work, we will go to court. That's what we'll do. We'll go enforce the settlement agreement in court. And we're giving them the opportunity to cure their defects.
Okay. Thank you.
Council President, can I ask a question? I don't know if you can answer this. If they don't, thank you, Mr. Giacobbe. If they don't fix our whatever is in that list, could we hold back allowing them to do any closing so no one can move in until it's settled?
Well, I mean, well, I think that probably the better thing to do would be, and I want to talk to Aaron about it, but once you give notice, we can also go out and start retaining our own folks or our own staff, go out and do the grading, fencing,
Right.
and things like that, and bill them for it.
You'd rather have people in the homes.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want them vacant, and you also, so I think that the better solution would be for us to correct it, the retaining wall, et cetera, and then charge them, and if they don't pay, then we sue them.
I just want to say, I don't disagree that we want people in their homes, but if I had if my construction site at my own home did not meet up to the standards of the city, I wouldn't get a CO, I don't know what it's called, the closing, the certification of,
Yeah.
right. So I wouldn't get a certification on my home if I want to rent an apartment, if it's not, there are processes you have to go through. So I just want to ensure that they are held to the same standard as anybody else in town, and we shouldn't be closing on a building that is not fully safe. That's all.
Agreed,
I think,
100%.
That's my, yeah.
so I think there's two separate issues. You've got the building, the structure itself, and that's why you have your building department that goes out to make sure that the electricity, the plumbing, all the subcode officials review it. That's one thing. It's the site that is adjacent to, I don't know Tara's last name, Tara's property, that is in deplorable condition. The court, the site, the wall, that basically is separating that property, which is going to be on Morse Avenue from Terrace property. So we're concentrating on that. And I think what we want to do is make them correct it. If they're not going to correct it, we're going to do it, and we will take a hard line on making sure they pay. It's in the agreement that we are jointly responsible for the wall. We want to make sure that the wall's done properly because and engineered properly, because with any type of retaining wall, we live in the Northeast where you have freezing and thawing, and so if it's not put right, it won't last. And so I know, and you've engaged, I think, Colliers to do that, correct?
Yes.
And we stopped them. They were going to just repair it, and that was unacceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Dory Gagnon, 27 Bedford. Mr. Giacobbe, I want to thank you for that update. That was very enlightening, and I think Tara behind me appreciates that as well. I have a question about the 2 affordable units, affordable housing units that you mentioned, Mr. Vartan, many times that are going to go up in front of our house. Can you please tell me the status of that? My first question,
No.
where we are on that.
No, we can't talk about affordable units there now.
So we don't know the status of that?
Yeah.
We can't talk about it?
There is no status of that
No.
right now.
We have
No,
not-
nothing's
there.
being
Okay, so that
pursued,
walkway.
Nothing's being pursued, there's no.
Okay,
no
so
update
that,
I can
and that walkway in front of Tara's house, is that permanent, or is that gonna come down?
Can I ask you to give your questions up front?
Okay, that
Thank you.
is the question. And be patient with me, please, just a little patience
You
tonight.
always are, Dory.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. I have a couple questions for the police chief, because he looks so nice in his seersucker. The 3 extra officers that you're putting in overnight, are those new? I see that there's a bunch of new officers that are being hired. Are those the new officers? Are those officers on overtime? And then I see that these are for 6 months, the data that was provided. Those are the past 2 years and this current year for 6 months. Could you also give us the statistics for year end of those, possibly, just like Rachel was describing, and then like include like a whole spreadsheet maybe for people who are interested in pedestrian safety, and just more like a year-end report so people could see like a 12-month as well, so not just the first 6 months, but also the last two full years. That would be really important for people to see just those, because I know the first 6 months might be different than the last 6 months. And then I also want to thank you for talking about repealing the redevelopment plan. I think it's really important for people to understand how we got here in the first place, because we have a lot of financial mess to figure out. We have the firehouse to pay for. We have this $37 million bond that's kind of different from the Board of Ed, but not really, because it still comes out of all of our taxes. And so, we're all kind of figuring out what to do with Broad Street West now. And we have to figure out how we got here, because I know, Mr. Vartan, you've mentioned, we have to do the Broad Street West to pay for the firehouse. And I think when we're repealing this redevelopment plan, which we all want, and I really appreciate that we're going to talk about it and put the ordinance in September, we have to figure out how we got here. And before, things are thrown in the air of saying, let's just have a builder buy it. I think we need to figure out, first, do a financial analysis of what that property's worth. So can we just, think and get people, smart people in the room, to think about what this property's worth and really think about what we're going to do with it before we just jump to something else. I think we all need to come to terms of what Broad Street West could be, should be, what we need to do with it before something's done. And the city's upset, or people are upset with the next thing that we should have, could have, would have. I think it's really important. So the Residents for Summit, thank you, first of all, for September. I really hope that's on the agenda, Mr. Vartan, because I know that LTE came out right away.
I'll ask you to wrap up.
Okay, that LTE came out right away after the last meeting. I don't know how you got it out that fast, but
He's very quick.
he's very quick. I know, that was done. And,
I'm 65, there's so faster when they're young.
but I appreciate if that ordinance is in there in
I
September.
type about 100 words a minute. Thank you for your
Thank you.
comment. Thank you for your comment. Okay. All right. The one thing I'll address is that the Uniform Crime Report and Summit's section of it every year with the year-end stats is on the city website, and that stuff is available. And then
All the time.
and that's available now. And then I think that's it. I think that's it for me. Okay, thank you.
Overtime?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, to answer the question, the additional officers that we've been assigning to the overnight, that has been a combination of overtime and reassignments. And just so I'm clear, the statistics that you're looking for, as the council president said, they are on the website. And there's also one that, a summary that I did, I believe, in February at the meeting, a 3-year 2022, 2021, and 2020 comparison. And also, there's attached to that same report, it's on the website, there's a historical data from 1999 till the present.
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Council President, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I just want to thank you, Chief. It's been a busy 3 years, and you guys are always in harm's way, so I want to thank you. One question I have that's a sensitive question, and probably some people are thinking about it in the community. For the Sherman burglary, do you know what happens to the individuals that get arrested? Do they stay in jail?
No.
Do they get released? Do you know how that works?
In the case of the Sherman Avenue burglary, the suspect was a juvenile. He was arrested, and he was not released because this particular individual, he was suspected in doing similar crimes like that. I could check in. I don't know if he's been released since, but initially they were holding on to him.
So is that the case? Anytime there's a burglary, if it's a minor, they're not held?
It's all case by case, and that goes for an adult as well now
Okay.
with the burglary charge.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Chief, could you just answer, like, we have new laws that are being put into place. Will that change the new laws that were passed about car thefts? Will that change who gets released?
It's
And
not first offenders.
Can you just
Right.
give an
It's
overview?
it's given the local county prosecutor a little more leeway, so yeah, I do think that will help.
so they'll be able to hold on to certain, if they're repeat offenders, they should be able to hold on to them.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We try to keep it to one comment
one
per person.
question.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Mr. Giacobbe, I know that there was there was supposed to be, on June 16th, a cleanup of the centerpiece of property. That was never done, because I know that Matt DeLore purchased a more secure fence, and the city was not going to move ahead with doing that or putting that fence up on the centerpiece of property to secure it better without that property cleanup being done. My question to you is is that ever going to be done at this point, that fence?
I can show you the letter that I sent him if you want to just wait afterwards. I specifically addressed that in my letter saying we're putting up a more secure fence and we need that property cleaned up. And I just looked at the letter, gave him until Monday, this coming Monday.
Okay, because on top of that, Habitat came down and actively told the fence people that it was not wanted. So that leads me to believe that they aren't going to do what they're supposed to be doing.
They're going
But
to do what they're going to do. So.
on top of that, my other question to you is that trailer, which is their dumpster pad. That why they've paved everything, okay? Why can't they move that trailer at this point? It's like an eyesore. Like it's just
Tara,
everything.
he's told you that he's going to work on this.
Yeah,
And
I am working on it, so let me just continue working on it.
But I wanted to make sure the trailer was addressed as well,
Yeah.
because we're the ones that have to sit there and look at it and have been looking at it for years.
So
Understood.
this is obviously an
It's
issue.
going to take, Tara,
I know.
and things take time. I'm doing it. I have written letters. I'm being fairly aggressive. But I want to make sure that whatever we do, removing the debris and stuff like that's one thing. But the wall, you want to make sure that that's done properly.
I understand that. That's why my question
And that
is
was
more.
addressed in my letter too.
That's more
So-
towards.
So this is obviously an issue that's been ongoing, right? And it involves a number of city staff people, it involves the city solicitor, and I have to imagine that you guys are in touch.
No.
already.
No, I'm
Well-
talking to Aaron.
Well, I hope that we can,
That's why I'm
I hope that we
here.
can loop in,
But,
right?
but no, but you were with an hour and a half.
We spent an hour and a half with you,
On
Ms.
Monday with
Gagliano.
Aaron and Matt.
And that's
Right.
why I'm back here, because we haven't received any word. It's been over a week.
It's been one day over a week. Give us a little time to get the work done.
Tara, government takes time, honestly and truly.
I'm
I-
aware
tru-
of that.
all the
Let's
things
try to-
I've learned
let's
in the
try to
last
not-
8
let's
years.
try
I'm
to not
aware of
crazy.
that, but the other safety issues should have been addressed a long time ago. That's my point.
I understand, thank you. Okay, any other comments? Hi.
You were afraid I'd come up.
Oh.
No, I
no.
always. we
Afraid
love-
of you?
We
Never,
love
way.
to see
Never,
you.
never. It's Millie Cooper, 1 Euclid Avenue. I really wasn't going to speak, but I thought to myself, this has been, let's see now, I guess it's a couple hours, of really a treat for me. I love this town, and I love you all, and you were really listening tonight. So many people hurt, and you were listening as best you could, I thought. And I really want to say, Greg, that it was such a joy to hear your first announcement, and that September you will be having a ordinance to get the redevelopment taken away, and you'll be starting new with the old, I assume, business. Was that what we could expect? The old way of doing the ordinance and zoning and master plan and all of those things. So I'm really here to thank you. And you know, I have those P words that I talk about. I was really proud, so proud to be a part of Summit. And all these years, I hope I live long enough to see what happens to Broad Street West.
No doubt you will.
But I think I will, and I think it'll be wonderful. And this town, I mean, I look at Rosemary, and we've known each other for a long, long time. That's how, she's not old like I am, but she was a kid when I first met her. But thank you very, very much for all that you do. And the police and the fire, I was head of safety when I was on council, so you were my boys. I really was so proud of you. But thank you, I
Thank you.
won't keep you any longer, but
Thank
I
you.
look forward to the future.
So Millie,
Thank
when we, Chief Evers and I when we open up the new firehouse, we're going to close down the old one, and we're going to have a parade down Broad
Oh,
Street.
good. I love
And
parades.
I truly hope you will walk with me.
Well, I will do my best as far as walking. I will do
You can ride in one of the, because we're going to have the fire trucks. You should actually, you should ride, Millie, you should ride in one of the fire trucks.
Yes, so that would be a treat, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, thank you.
Kevin McGoey, Woodland Avenue. I just had a question, wish I didn't have to do this here, but people don't answer me at all anymore, even if I ask very fair questions. Back in December, Jamie, you introduced or talked about the idea of introducing an ordinance similar to similar to ordinances that municipalities have, I think in Monmouth County, to try to help curb car thefts. And I know that Chatham just put one in place recently. We didn't hear anything about it for a very long time, and then 2 months ago on Facebook, you said that that the idea, this was presented by a resident, and it allowed for many important discussions to take place in the communities, and these conversations continued. During these conversations, we learned about existing state laws and how this ordinance could be used and misused. I've explained all this to you at length for the last 2 months, once a week, once every 2 weeks, trying to get you to answer the question, who in the community did you speak with about this ordinance? And how could this ordinance be misused and by whom? And the reason I also explained to you in detail why I was asking the question, it goes back to the process. I know that in Broad Street West, it was, there's tons of people that really like this, and everybody that I showed it to, most people had never seen it, and they I'd show it to, and they really didn't like it. So I'm just concerned that the government was really just talking to a very small community of people, and that was influencing decisions. But again, I want to understand how this particular ordinance could be, because it's, you know, they have it in other towns. Mr. Giacobbe, you wrote them, I think, in Monmouth. You didn't write them in Monmouth County, where you talked about it in that time, then you could
Let's
take
not
it.
have the back
Okay,
and forth.
all right.
Let's do the questions.
So that's the first thing, if you could, I mean, again, I wish you'd just answer my email instead of me having to do this. And then the other thing that I've gone back and kind of watched some of the history of what's happened with Broad Street West, because now we're talking about repealing the redevelopment plan, which is fundamentally flawed based on what it was, in September of 2023. In September of 2022, I tried to explain to you guys that
September of 2023?
2022.
Let's let him finish, right? Let's let him finish.
Yeah. In September 2022, I stood up here, tried to explain to people, I tried to explain to people in private how the redevelopment plan didn't work with the 1.6 acres that we were talking about, and that we needed to maybe take a step back and not view this anymore. Councilmember Hairston said, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the best of this redevelopment plan, and that's that. I also reached out to David Nadeau, who I know has a lot of influence with you guys, and David said the same thing. Under no circumstances are we not going to use L&M or toll. This was a year ago, right? And he said, I was like, well, David, I understand why we didn't even think of it. And he said, because they've been great partners. They're partners, we owe it to them. And I don't understand it was the best interest of Summit. And I was like, David, how are they great partners? Look at the pro
Kevin,
formas, they
let's-
lied to you.
Let's
Okay.
wrap this up, because you're also attacking two people that are not here, so let's.
I'm not attacking anybody.
So
You are
we're-
speaking,
so
you're
Kevin,
saying things of two people who are not here.
And Kevin,
Factuals,
we're over the
thanks.
3 minutes also. So
Right,
I want
okay.
to ask you to conclude the comments.
All right,
And then
well-
we'll follow up with what we can, and then we'll follow up separately.
I didn't prepare this. I don't write these things. Just earlier in this, you talked about Matt Gould. And Matt Gould, I like Matt Gould. Matt Gould was a great guy, and he was a nice person. And you said how Matt thought about how government could bring people together. And I look at the way things have transpired for the past year and a half, and I see nothing but people, elected officials that we have, doing nothing but dividing people.
Kevin.
And I see
Kevin,
that to
again,
today.
Kevin, again, really? It's
Yeah.
time to sit down now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm just asking you, in
Kevin,
honor of Matt,
Kevin,
can you
thank
maybe
you.
put politics aside
Kevin.
a little bit?
Kevin, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So, thank you for your comment. So,
You want me to answer just the ordinance thing? So-
yeah, let's talk to where we are with the ordinance.
So right
Yeah.
now, the Public Safety Committee, I always get the committees wrong. The
Safety and Health.
Safety and Health Committee, I drafted the ordinance, or redrafted it. I know the attorney from Homedale, and back in December, I contacted him to get it. I pointed out to members of council, including Councilwoman Levine, that there was I thought there was a problem with the way Homedale drafted it, because it's a very different municipality in terms of, the driveways are longer, they don't have lots of public places, and the way they drafted the ordinance, if somebody was within 20 feet of a car on a public place, it could trigger something. So I thought that was probably a little too broad. It's under the police powers. It's not a trespass ordinance. It's a police powers ordinance. And really what it does is gives the police the ability to fine people $1,000 for first offense, $2,000 for second offense, to try to put some monetary penalty along with just possible jail. The problem that you have with Summit is you have a lot of apartment buildings, you have lots of public places. I think it'd be almost impossible if somebody was walking by on, Springfield Avenue, somebody's parked. So I've redrafted it, they're considering it, to have it being on private property, including places of where the rental units. So if people are parked behind their apartment buildings on, I think it's Summit Avenue here, that would, if someone is back there loitering, and I've spoken to the attorney in Homedale just to try to get some statistics about how often it's been used. He said it hasn't been used that often, but the main thing was they were having, their main issue was people were, going down people's driveways. Now, Homedale, a lot of the driveways are quite long, because I think the zoning there is like an acre minimum. So we try to craft it, and it's before the Safety and Health Committee looking at it. But it'll be, something else that the police can, maybe utilize in trying to deter people from stealing cars. But that was my, recommendation to Mike Rogers and others, that you could not use the Homedale ordinance. It would not fit Summit, just given the city and the characteristics of your town.
We're not gonna have a back and forth from the audience. We're not gonna have that, Kevin, thank you.
You're not going to answer
Okay, okay. I think that question has been answered, so, okay. Other public comments at this point?
Can I come up again and just ask?
I would like to speak for a moment.
Sorry.
I have been the mayor almost 8 years. And I've never done this. Many people have come up and spoken and talked about what is important to their communities, in their town, in their street, in their neighborhoods. And we talk about what they need, and we try. Our city staff is unbelievable how they respond and get things done. First responders, Tara, you spent.
I went to you and I asked you for help with my deed. You did nothing.
Okay.
I just think it's unbelievable how much has changed in 8 years. To say that this group of people of both parties, and when I first was mayor, we were I was a minority mayor. And it was fine. It's all fine. But the people who work in this city, who work for this city, the volunteers who sit up here, work for nothing other than making the city great. Everybody who has moved here, probably moved here in the last 20 or 30 years, they moved here because it's a really well-run city. It's nothing to do with the rest of us. This city's been well-run because we've got an enormously great staff. And to say, Mr. McGoey, that all we're doing is trying to create difficulty in the city, it's a wrong word, I apologize. I'm tired. I'm tired, and I'm not using the right phrase. I get it. But I'm really upset. I'm really upset that everybody in this town seems to think that the people up here have their own agendas. They're working as volunteers for you. I apologize. I've never done this before, but I am heartsick. I am heartsick. Billy, you know how hard these folks are working.
I certainly do.
And it's wrong. It's wrong you haven't been in this town involved in this community for 8 years. You maybe have, but you certainly haven't been in these meetings for 8 years, because I have, and I haven't seen you for 8 years.
I trusted you guys.
I've got to sit down.
How many people are in here from the residents? How many residents
Kevin,
ever come?
Kevin, I'm going to sit down, and I apologize. Ladies and gentlemen,
And you cut me off before I could even speak, so.
ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I've never done this before. I'm heartsick at what I'm seeing. And it's not you, it's everybody. It's everybody.
As
Sorry.
leaders, you can calm it down.
Okay, thank you. Do we have other public comments? Let's make it really quick.
So I'm glad to hear that, Bob Pulaski, 3 Custic Court. I'm glad to hear that we are moving on this ordinance. I had always called it a trespassing ordinance because in my mind, it was to discourage people not just from stealing cars, but from committing or attempting crimes on private property. The peace of mind that the people in the city are looking for is to not have people in their yards, regardless of whether they're trying to commit a car theft or whether they're trying to break in. And my question is, are we considering broadening it beyond just automobile thefts? So if I'm hearing you right, if somebody comes into my yard and tries to get into my house, they can't be ticketed under this ordinance. But if they try to get in my car, they could. And if I had to pick one, I'd say, let's ticket them for trying to go in the house. But why can't we just do both at the same time? And you don't have to answer that tonight, but maybe while it's in committee or whatever, think about it.
Thank you for your comment.
Can you answer that?
I mean,
Okay, so,
I can just answer about the trespass.
criminal trespassing is
Already exists.
a state criminal, it's in the state
No,
criminal.
I understand what, I know your last name, Bob is it. So what we're trying to do is arm the police with more deterrence, and that's why we've put it under the police powers. And that's where actually Marlboro, I think it was Marlboro, definitely Homedale, put it. We can look at that, but the issue with criminal trespass, once somebody goes into somebody's abode, a house, it's a much different crime. Now, I know what you're saying, so we could look at that, but right now, and I have to look at the other ordinances, I don't believe, because when the chief and the police department are doing trespass, they're relying on 2C, which could be an indictable offense. This is not a criminal act, this is a civil penalty that goes along with a criminal act of theft. So I can see if we, I'll take a look at that. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're going to close the comment period, and we're going to move to Chief. Sure. Chief?
This is a new one.
Yeah?
Yeah, just want to bring up, July 5th, Newark Fire Department lost 2 firefighters in a tragic event
Yes.
on the town. So just want to condolences to Newark Fire Department. I know a lot of guys there. We work close with them on a lot of training things. So condolences to them, also to the families who have lost a firefighter. So it's a horrible thing to go through, but some fire department helped them out a great deal. It's one of the public condolences to the department. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Okay, we're on to council member comments and new business. Nope. Okay. I think we're ready
Put an end to that.
I think we're ready to adjourn the meeting. I don't think the nerds are still playing.
I think they're
I
done.
think they're probably done.
Yeah, the
Okay.
nerds are done.
We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second? Somebody want to
Nobody
second?
wants to leave?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.